The front door had barely closed when the maid grabbed his arm. Her fingers were shaking. "Sir," she whispered urgently, her eyes wide with fear. "Please stay quiet. Don't make a sound." The millionaire froze. This was his house. His security was elite. Nothing ever happened without his permission. So why was the woman who had worked for him for 10 years trembling like this? And what was behind the closed door at the end of the hallway? Jonathan Hale was not supposed to be home. As the founder of a multi-billion-dollar technology empire, his life ran on schedules planned months in advance. Business trips, board meetings, international deals. But that afternoon something felt off. The meeting in Zurich ended early. The deal was signed faster than expected. And for the first time in years, Jonathan felt an unfamiliar pull, the desire to go home. Not to the city penthouse. Not to another luxury hotel. But to the quiet estate outside the city. The place he barely visited anymore. He didn't tell anyone. Not his assistant. Not his security team. He wanted silence. When his car rolled through the iron gates, Jonathan noticed something unusual. The lights were on. It was mid-afternoon. He frowned. Normally, the house stayed quiet until evening. Still, he dismissed the thought. Maybe the staff was cleaning. Jonathan unlocked the door himself and stepped inside. That's when he heard soft crying. Not loud. Not dramatic. The kind of crying someone makes when they don't want to be heard. He took a step forward. And then, "Sir." Maria appeared from the hallway like a ghost. Her face was pale. Her hands were trembling. Her voice barely existed. "Please," she whispered. "Stay quiet." Jonathan stared at her. "Maria," he said calmly. "What's going on?" She shook her head, eyes darting toward the hallway. "You weren't supposed to be home," she whispered. "If they hear you." "If who hears me?" Jonathan asked, his voice low now. Maria swallowed hard. "There's something you need to see," she said. "But please not yet." Jonathan's heart began to pound. He followed her gaze. At the end of the hallway stood a door. Closed. And behind it, another muffled sound. "Child." Jonathan's breath caught. "A child," he whispered. "Why is there a child in my house?" Maria stepped in front of him. "Sir, please," she begged. "Let me explain." But Jonathan was already moving. Every instinct in him, businessman, protector, human, screamed that something was wrong. "Maria," he said firmly, "move." She hesitated, then slowly stepped aside. Jonathan approached the door. The crying stopped. Silence. Then a small voice spoke from behind the wood. "Mom, is he gone?" Jonathan felt something twist painfully in his chest. He knocked softly. "It's okay," he said gently. "I'm not going to hurt you." Maria gasped. "Sir, please." The lock clicked. The door opened just a crack. And what Jonathan saw shattered his world. Inside the room sat 3 children. 2 boys and a girl. The oldest couldn't have been more than 10. They were huddled together on the floor, clutching a thin blanket. Their clothes were clean but worn. Their eyes were filled with fear. And standing protectively in front of them was another woman. Not staff. Not family. Stranger. She looked exhausted. Her hair was pulled back hastily. Her eyes met Jonathan's, and instead of fear, he saw something else. Defiance. "Please," she said quietly. "Don't call the police." Jonathan couldn't speak. He looked from the children to Maria. "Explain," he said, his voice shaking despite himself. Maria wiped her eyes. "She's my sister," she whispered. "And those are her children." They sat in the living room. The children were given juice and food. They ate slowly, cautiously, as if unsure it would be taken away. Jonathan watched them silently. Finally Maria spoke. "My sister's name is Elena," she said. "She was married to a man who—" Her voice broke. "Who hurt her?" Elena looked down, nodding. "He controlled everything," Maria continued. "Money, phones, even where she could go." Jonathan clenched his jaw. And the children, he asked. He started hurting them too, Elena whispered. The room went cold. I helped her escape, Maria said quickly. She had nowhere else. No money. No papers. I didn't know what to do. Jonathan stood up abruptly. You hid them in my house, he said sharply. Maria flinched. I was desperate, she cried. I clean floors for a living. I couldn't protect them alone. But here they were safe. Jonathan paced. For years, his mansion had been empty. Too big. Too silent. And while he attended galas and closed billion-dollar deals, 3 terrified children had been sleeping in a hidden room behind his study. How long? He asked quietly. Elena swallowed. 3 months. Jonathan stopped pacing. 3 months. 3 months of secrets. 3 months of fear. 3 months of survival. And he had never noticed. Jonathan sat down heavily. I should fire you, he said to Maria. She nodded, tears falling freely. I understand, sir. I should call the police, he continued. Elena pulled her children closer. I know, she whispered. Silence filled the room. Then Jonathan spoke again. But instead, he said slowly, I want to know why no one ever asked me for help. Maria looked up shocked. You're a billionaire, she said. People like us don't bother people like you. That sentence hit Jonathan harder than any insult he had ever received. He looked around his mansion. The marble floors. The expensive art. The emptiness. I built everything, he said quietly. Except a life. He looked at the children again. They can stay, he said firmly. Maria gasped. Elena shook her head. Sir, you don't understand. I understand perfectly, Jonathan interrupted. This house has been silent for too long. 2 weeks later the knock came. Not gentle. Not polite. Violent. Jonathan's security cameras showed a man at the gate, screaming. Elena, he shouted. You think you can hide from me? The children froze in terror. Jonathan's face turned cold. Lock the doors, he said calmly. He stepped outside alone. The man laughed when he saw him. You think you scare me? The man sneered. Jonathan didn't raise his voice. He raised his phone. Everything you just said, he said quietly, is being recorded, along with evidence already sent to the authorities. Police sirens echoed in the distance. The man's face drained of color. You don't know who I am, he hissed. Jonathan stepped closer. Oh, he said softly. I do. And now, everyone else will too. Police took him away. The children watched from the window. For the first time they smiled. Months passed. Laughter replaced silence. Crayon drawings covered the fridge. Toys filled the once empty rooms. Jonathan learned how to make pancakes. Badly. The children didn't care. Maria stopped whispering. Elena started healing. And Jonathan Hale, the man who had everything, finally learned what he had been missing. One evening the youngest child tugged his sleeve. Are you our dad now? She asked innocently. Jonathan knelt, eyes shining. No, he said gently. But I'll always protect you. She hugged him anyway. And for the first time in his life, the millionaire felt rich. He came home early expecting silence. Instead he found a secret behind a door. A secret that didn't destroy his world. Saved it.